Welcome to Strategictalk, where we make complex topics simple, practical, and a bit more fun. Did you know that most groundbreaking ideas never see the light of day? 90% of startups fail, not because they're bad, but because they hit invisible roadblocks inside organizations. Today, we're diving into the sneaky barriers that kill innovation, and more importantly, how to smash through them like a pro. Stick around for powerful insights from best-selling books, powerful real-world lessons, and expert strategies you can actually use. Let's get started. The first, cognitive barriers. The blind spot syndrome. First up, cognitive barriers. These are the mental blind spots that stop organizations from seeing new opportunities. Think of it as wearing foggy glasses. The future's right there, but you just can't see it clearly. Clayton Christensen, in his game-changing book The Innovator's Dilemma, explains this as the danger of sticking too closely to what already works. Imagine you run a bakery famous for buttery croissants. Suddenly, gluten-free diets take over, and instead of adapting, you say, "People will never stop loving my croissants." That's a cognitive barrier, focusing too much on the old way and ignoring new trends. Now here's a shocking fact. Kodak invented the digital camera back in 1975. Yes, decades before smartphones. But instead of leading the revolution, they clung to their film empire. The result? Kodak went from industry giant to cautionary tale as digital technology left them behind. So, what's the solution? Stay curious. Ask yourself, what's the next big thing my customers need? And be willing to step outside your comfort zone. It's about challenging the status quo and keeping your mind open to new possibilities. Actionable tip. Host a trend spotting session. Gather your team weekly and explore. What might be our blind spots, and what are we missing? The second innovation barrier, structural barriers, the department drama. Picture this. Your teams are like rooms in a house, marketing in the kitchen, product development in the garage, and IT in the attic. No doors, no windows, just awkward email chains connecting them. Sound familiar? The third innovation barrier. Welcome to structural barriers. Gary Hamel, in The Future of Management, describes how silos prevent collaboration, leaving great ideas stuck in the pipeline. Think of your organization as a house. If the kitchen doesn't talk to the living room, you're going to have a hard time hosting a dinner party. Let me tell you a quick story. I once worked with a tech company where marketing never spoke to product development. They were like two separate islands. Marketing was promising features that the product team wasn't even building. The result? They launched a product nobody wanted. A similar situation happened with Google Glass. The marketing team created a massive buzz around a revolutionary augmented reality experience that would seamlessly integrate into daily life. Meanwhile, the product development team struggled with technical limitations and privacy concerns. When Google Glass finally launched, it fell far short of public expectations, facing significant backlash over privacy issues and a clunky user interface. Google eventually pulled Glass from the consumer market, demonstrating how a lack of communication between departments can lead to disconnects between promises and reality. What's the solution? Break down silos and encourage cross-department communication. Sometimes the best ideas come from casual conversations during break time. Here are some actionable tips. Cross-department coffee chats. Once a month, encourage casual meetups between teams. Next, try no-department brainstorms. Create opportunities for people from different teams to connect and share ideas. Or use collaboration tools like Miro and Slack to break down those barriers. Remember, organizational silos are innovation's silent assassins, creating invisible walls that block collaboration and creativity. The fourth innovation barrier, emotional barriers, the fear factor. Ever had a great idea, but stayed silent in a meeting because you were scared of sounding foolish? That, my friends, is an emotional barrier, and it's a creativity killer. As highlighted by Brené Brown in her best-selling book, Dare to Lead. This barrier is all about fear of failure, fear of looking foolish, fear of the unknown. Does it sound familiar? Here's a fun analogy. It's like being at a dance party but refusing to bust a move because you're scared someone will laugh. Meanwhile, the people who are dancing are having a blast, and you're stuck on the sidelines. Take Pixar, for example. Their brain trust meetings encourage sharing bad ideas because they know creativity thrives when people feel safe enough to fail. But Pixar isn't the only company that's cracked the code on overcoming emotional barriers. Let's look at 3M, the company behind Post-it notes. They have a famous 15% time policy where employees can spend 15% of their work time on projects of their own choosing. This policy created a safe space for employees to explore new ideas without fear of failure. The result? Innovations like Post-it notes, which were actually born from a failed adhesive. IDEO, the renowned design firm, takes a different but equally effective approach. They've embraced a fail faster to succeed sooner philosophy. At IDEO, rapid prototyping and learning from failures are not just encouraged, they're celebrated. This approach creates an environment where employees aren't afraid to share unconventional ideas or take risks because they know that even failures are valuable learning experiences. These examples show us that when companies create environments that reduce fear and encourage risk-taking, innovation can truly flourish. So, what's the solution to overcome emotional barriers? Here are some actionable tips. Start meetings with a fail-safe story. Kick off meetings by sharing past failures that led to success. Create a Mistake of the Month award, celebrating learning moments. Or allocate some fixed work time for exploratory projects. Remember, if you're not failing every now and then, it's a sign you're not doing anything very innovative. The fifth innovation barrier, market barriers, the chasm problem. Henry Ford once famously said, "If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." This perfectly sums up market barriers. Sometimes customers don't know they need innovation until they experience it. Jeffrey Moore, in his book Crossing the Chasm, explains how many companies fail because they market to everyone too soon instead of focusing on early adopters. These barriers occur when there's a gap between early adopters and the mainstream market. Sometimes customers aren't ready for your big idea, or they don't understand why they need it. Think about Tesla. When they first introduced electric cars, many people thought it was a joke. They were too expensive, and there wasn't enough charging infrastructure. But Tesla didn't try to convince everyone all at once. They started with high-end customers who were willing to take a risk. Once those early adopters proved the concept, Tesla expanded to the mainstream market. Another great example is Airbnb. When they first launched, the idea of staying in a stranger's home seemed risky and unconventional to many. The traditional hotel industry scoffed at the concept, believing people would always prefer the safety and predictability of established accommodations. Airbnb didn't try to convince everyone at once. Instead, they focused on tech-savvy early adopters in urban areas who were open to new experiences and looking for more authentic local stays. They started in cities with high hotel prices, offering a more affordable alternative. As trust in the sharing economy grew and early adopters shared positive experiences, Airbnb gradually expanded its reach to more mainstream travelers. Now, let's look at some actionable tips to overcome market barriers. Find your niche first. Start small, focus on early adopters, prove your idea works, and then scale up. Educate your market. Help your customers understand the benefits of your product or service. Or use micropilots. Test your product or service with a small select audience, controlled environments before a full-scale launch. Finally, adapt and iterate. Be prepared to adjust your product or marketing strategy based on market feedback. The sixth innovation barrier, political barriers, the power struggle. Office politics, where great ideas go to die or get stuck in committee meetings. John P. Cotter dives deep into this in his bestseller, Leading Change. Political barriers happen when people resist change because it threatens their power, status, or comfort zone. You've probably heard innovation killers like, "We've always done it this way," or "Why fix what's not broken?" These aren't just cliches. They're classic political barriers standing in the way of progress. Let me share a real-world example. IBM, one of the world's largest technology companies, faced a significant political barrier when it decided to shift from selling hardware to offering services. This wasn't an easy change. Many people within the company resisted it because they feared it would make their roles obsolete. But IBM's leadership understood the importance of innovation. They built alliances within the company, communicated the vision clearly, and got people on board. Here is one more example from Africa. When Safaricom, Kenya's largest mobile network operator, wanted to launch M-Pesa, a mobile money transfer service, they faced significant political barriers. Traditional banks saw M-Pesa as a threat to their business model and lobbied against it. However, Safaricom's leadership worked closely with the Central Bank of Kenya to address concerns and develop appropriate regulations. They also partnered with local agents to build trust in the system. By effectively navigating these political challenges, M-Pesa became a huge success, transforming financial services in Kenya and beyond. Now let's look at some actionable tips to overcome political barriers. Build a coalition of change champions. Identify influential people within the organization who support your innovation and can help advocate for it. Host vision alignment meetings where teams contribute to shaping the change narrative. Involve key stakeholders early. Engage potential resistors in the innovation process, giving them a sense of ownership and reducing their opposition. Remember, if you want to make enemies, try to change something. Next, the seventh innovation barrier, execution barriers, the recipe without ingredients. Having a brilliant idea but failing to execute it? Welcome to execution barriers. Tony Davila, in his book Making Innovation Work, explains this as the gap between ideation and implementation. Think of it like having a brilliant recipe but no chef to cook it. Many organizations struggle with execution because they don't assign clear ownership of projects. People aren't sure who's responsible for what, and things fall through the cracks. Take Apple, for instance. They don't just dream up cool gadgets, they bring them to life with precision and excellence. Their product launches are legendary because they execute flawlessly. And it's not just Apple. SpaceX's reusable rockets were once a bold idea that seemed impossible, until they focused on precise execution, running countless tests and learning from every failure to turn it into a reality. When Netflix decided to transition from DVD rentals to streaming, they also faced significant execution challenges. They had to build a robust streaming infrastructure, negotiate content rights, and manage the shift in their business model. Netflix succeeded by assigning clear ownership to different aspects of the transition and executing their plan methodically. Now let's look at some actionable tips you can apply to overcome execution barriers. Assign clear ownership. Designate specific individuals or teams responsible for each aspect of the innovation process. Break projects into manageable milestones. Create a step-by-step roadmap with clear deadlines and deliverables. Implement agile methodologies. Use iterative approaches to quickly prototype, test, and refine ideas. Sometimes, it's better to launch a good enough product and improve it over time. Establish regular check-ins. Schedule frequent progress reviews to identify and address issues early. Remember, vision without execution is hallucination. The eighth innovation barrier, knowledge barriers. The father of modern management, Peter Drucker, explains knowledge barriers in his book Innovation and Entrepreneurship. These barriers occur when teams fail to share information, leading to missed opportunities and duplicated efforts. Imagine trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle, but everyone is holding on to their piece, refusing to share. Without collaboration, the full picture never comes together. Why does this happen? Often, organizations silo knowledge due to poor communication channels, lack of transparency, or even fear of losing control over information. When insights and lessons aren't shared across departments or teams, innovation stalls. One of the best examples of overcoming knowledge barriers comes from Procter & Gamble. They launched a program called Connect Plus Develop, where they partnered with external innovators to bring fresh ideas into the company. Instead of relying solely on internal teams, they tapped into a broader network of knowledge. Another brilliant case? Lego ideas. When facing a sales slump in the early 2000s, Lego launched a platform allowing fans to submit their own designs. The result? Several fan-created sets became bestsellers, proving the power of open knowledge sharing. Here are some actionable tips to overcome knowledge barriers. Create a knowledge-sharing culture. Encourage a culture where sharing knowledge is empowering, not threatening. Develop knowledge management systems. Implement tools and use platforms like Miro or Microsoft Teams for centralized information sharing and real-time collaboration. Host cross-functional collaboration events. Organize innovation hackathons where diverse teams come together to solve business challenges. Encourage open innovation and external collaboration. Invite industry experts and customers to participate in the idea generation process. Remember, knowledge is power. Sharing knowledge is the key to unlocking that power. Next, the eighth innovation barrier, customer barriers. Customer barriers are among the most overlooked challenges, and Eric Ries, in his bestseller The Lean Startup, sheds light on this problem. Companies often think they know what customers want, but they don't validate those assumptions. Instead, they build products based on guesswork and hope for the best. Spoiler alert, that rarely works. Think about Dropbox. Before launching their full platform, they didn't spend millions on product development. Instead, they made a simple explainer video showing how Dropbox would work. The feedback was overwhelming, and they realized they had a hit before writing a single line of code. Now, let me give you another relatable example. Imagine opening a new restaurant without asking what type of food people in the area prefer. You serve sushi in a neighborhood that loves pizza. Guess what? It won't work. The same thing happens in businesses when they offer solutions that customers don't need or understand. Here are some actionable tips to overcome customer barriers. Talk to your customers early and often. Don't wait until you've built the entire product to get feedback. Engage with potential users from the start. Prototype quickly. Create basic versions of your product or service to test ideas and gather real customer input for improvement. Give customers something tangible. Remember, customers don't always know what they want until they see it. Provide them with something concrete to react to. Involve customers in the innovation process. Co-creation is a powerful tool. When customers feel they've contributed to a product's development, they're more likely to adopt it and spread the word. Remember, if you don't understand your customers' needs, you can't create products that meet them. The 9th innovation barrier, time barriers. Teresa Amabile, in her book The Progress Principle, highlights one of the most common barriers to innovation: time. Time barriers occur when organizations are so focused on day-to-day operations that they don't prioritize innovation. It's like being on a treadmill, always moving but never progressing. Google is a perfect example of how to overcome this barrier. They introduced the famous 20% time policy, which allowed employees to spend 1/5 of their workweek on side projects. This simple idea led to the creation of some of Google's most successful products, like Gmail and Google Maps. Imagine if they hadn't made time for those innovations. But let's bring it back to a relatable scenario. Have you ever said, "I don't have time to think about new ideas"? Maybe you're swamped with meetings, emails, and deadlines. The same thing happens in organizations. Teams get so caught up in their routines that there's no space for creativity. Actionable tips to overcome time barriers. Make time for innovation. It doesn't have to be a massive time investment. Start small with monthly brainstorming sessions or innovation sprints. Encourage exploration. Allow employees to spend an hour a week exploring new ideas or interests related to their work. Streamline routine tasks. Use tools and automation to reduce the time spent on repetitive processes, freeing up time for more valuable, creative work. Remember, it's not just about making time. It's about making the most of the time you have. The 10th innovation barrier, regulatory barriers, navigating the compliance maze. Now let's talk about regulatory barriers, as discussed by Henry Chesbrough in his book, Open Innovation. These barriers are particularly common in industries like finance, healthcare, and energy, where strict rules and regulations can slow down the pace of innovation. Consider FinTech disruptor Square. Rather than avoiding regulations, they collaborated with financial authorities from the start, ensuring compliance while reshaping the payment industry. Another relevant example is Airbnb. When they expanded into new markets, they faced various local regulations regarding short-term rentals. Instead of ignoring these rules, Airbnb engaged with local governments to create frameworks that allowed them to operate legally while addressing community concerns. This proactive approach helped them gain acceptance and establish a foothold in many cities worldwide. Here's a relatable analogy. Imagine you're planning a neighborhood barbecue. You could ignore the local noise regulations and hope for the best, or you could check the rules in advance and plan accordingly. Which approach is more likely to result in a successful event? The same principle applies to innovation. How to overcome regulatory barriers. Engage with regulators early. Involve regulatory bodies in your innovation process from the beginning. Don't wait until your product is fully developed to address compliance. Make it part of your strategy from the start. Stay informed about changing regulations. Laws and rules evolve, especially in fast-moving industries like technology. Keeping up with these changes can help you stay ahead of potential roadblocks. Build a compliance team or partner with legal experts. Having a dedicated team that understands the regulatory landscape can save you time and money in the long run. Foster open communication. Create channels for ongoing dialogue with regulators to ensure that your innovations align with current laws and expectations. View regulations as opportunities. Remember that regulations aren't always a bad thing. They exist to protect consumers and ensure fairness. Working within these frameworks can enhance your reputation and build customer trust. Remember, regulations are not meant to be obstacles, they are meant to guide us toward better practices. We've just explored 10 barriers to innovation, from cognitive blind spots to political power struggles, and how to overcome them with real-world strategies. By understanding these barriers and implementing practical solutions, you can unlock your organization's true creative potential. Now it's your turn. Which barrier resonates with you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights could inspire others on their innovation journey. Like, subscribe, and share this video with your team, because together we can build a world full of unstoppable ideas. See you in the next video. Until then, stay curious, stay focused, and keep innovating.